At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. The microphone is on. Looks like everything's up and running. Hope you're having a good start to your day. You know, if you are in the Sacramento Valley in particular, you're dealing with some fog out there, and especially out towards the Redding, Red Bluff area, kind of along the I-5 corridor there, and you head east of that, say around Chico, Orville, foggy, but just not as bad. But that may change here as we take you through the morning hours here. So a lot to really unpack here, at least for this morning, as that fog may take a while to burn off. We're going to get into that here in a second here. Let's just kind of do a quick check-in with some of you all this morning. And, you know, I think people are really getting into that Christmas spirit like Chappie is. She's saying Merry Christmas to everyone. And, of course, you saw earlier this morning, the first to chime in this morning was Lisa Stevens saying good morning to everyone. And we've also got James saying good morning to you all. So good morning to you. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for checking in this morning. Let's get you right to the Krueger's Quickcast here. And again, we're going to really start off by addressing the fog that we are seeing out there this morning. As you can see here, we're down to 0 to quarter-mile visibility in places like Redding and Red Bluff. And this is where we're seeing the most dense fog right now, even down south out towards Willows. But look at Chico and Orville. You're at about 5-mile visibility, so it's not quite as bad there. There are also areas in the higher elevations, some of those inland in those mountain valleys, say Hoopa, Weaverville, Hayfork. You're seeing some of that fog as well. Even up towards Wairika, you're seeing some dense fog up there. In fact, down to about 0 to quarter-mile visibility there. And where we typically see most of the fog all year round is the coast. But the coast is not necessarily seeing that right now. In fact, let's take a look at some of the cameras around the area. And again, where we're seeing less of that fog is Chico, but you can certainly see some of that fog that we're seeing out there. It was worse yesterday morning. We're starting to see that fog pick up a little bit more intensity, places like Highway 89 at Neal Road, but again, not as bad as we're seeing right now in Redding. Take a look at Redding. This is on Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. You can barely see the camera. You can barely see the cars, just their headlights as they're kind of coming on through. And that's, of course, a reminder, use your low beams. Of course, I don't think I need to tell you that, but that's hopefully common sense in most cases. There's a look at I-5, Anderson, Balls Ferry Road, exit there. And you can see a lot of the fog and the dense fog that we're seeing in that area as well. Taking a look at Red Bluff on I-5. Also seeing that fog out there. So it's along the I-5 corridor right now, Redding down to Red Bluff, some pretty dense fog in some cases here. We take a look at some other areas. Take north on I-5, Dunsmuir, I-5 near Mount Shasta seems to be okay, and even Snowman Summit. I don't see a lot of fog up there either. There's going to be some patchy fog in those areas, but look up north, out towards Wairika, north of Wairika in Anderson Grade. Seeing some dense fog there, but then you get up a little bit higher in elevation, you get above that fog at North Hilt. We've also got Buckhorn just at the base of Buckhorn Summit. At 2,600 feet, there seems to be some fog there. There you can see Oregon Mountain. Looks like we're seeing that fog. So Trinity County, I'd be willing to guess. I don't have any cameras for Weaverville or Hayfork, but I'm sure you're seeing some fog there as well. Berry Summit looks okay, but you can kind of see some patchy fog kind of lingering in the area there. Here's a look at Hatchet Mountain. Looks to be okay. Okay, we're just kind of looking at fog right now. We're not really seeing much out in the Four Corners or even out towards Cedar Pass on Highway 299 East. Highway 44, Shingletown, looks like we are seeing some patchy fog there. And out towards Lassen Park seems to be okay. There's Highway 36 and 89 intersection. This is near Chester. So we're seeing some fog in the Chester area, it looks like. And for down near Summit, looks to be okay as well. And I think we're ready. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that dense fog advisory. And I'm getting some confirmation here. We have got Curtis Brown in Red Bluff. He is saying this morning, good morning, everyone. We're socked in this morning with the fog. So yeah, it started earlier this morning. We've also got Shelley in Weaverville saying 39 degrees right now and some fog. So it doesn't look to be terrible fog, but we are seeing some of that patchy fog, and that's to be expected here this morning. So we have in the Sacramento Valley a dense fog advisory. And notice it doesn't expire until noon. it's going to take a while for this fog to burn off. Now, this is a look at the satellite image. We try to look at just, especially when it's night, because you can't see the fog at night. You have to usually look at what's called a visible satellite when you're looking at basically an image from space. But when it's dark out, it's hard to see that. You can't see it. So some of the infrareds can pick up some of those lower level clouds, and sometimes it does an okay job. It's not doing the greatest job right now, picking up some of the dense fog that we are seeing. It looks like now towards Red Bluff, but the fog not as bad in Chico and Oroville. But just kind of give you an idea how it's kind of inundating most of the valley of California. Sacramento and the San Joaquin Valley, southward into the Bakersfield area, seeing some fog there as well, and of course some of the patchy fog in the higher elevations. So we look at the forecast and what the fog is looking like, and this is just going to give us a general idea, but it does look like it's going to stick around here. 9 o'clock this morning, you can see as we go into about the noon hour, still some pretty dense fog even at the noon hour in some areas. But you notice through the afternoon, the fog should start to dissipate. Now, a lot of times there's phrases you hear like the fog will lift, the fog will burn out. When we say the fog will burn out, that means the fog is moving on out. When the fog lifts, and again, that's just kind of a term, we see the visibility increase, visibility gets better, but you still have the fog kind of above you, and you're seeing kind of those gray skies. That may be the case for a good portion of the day for many of us in the valley. You can see Chico still at 0 mile visibility even at 5 o'clock today. That may be overdoing it, quite honestly, but we've seen that through the last couple of days to our south. No reason why we couldn't see it up here as well. Fog is a tricky one to forecast as far as getting an idea, but we are seeing some potential for that fog sticking around for a while. Temperatures right now are in the low to mid 40s in the valley, colder in the mountains where we're seeing less fog, right? So you've got those temperatures in the 20s, and along the coast, upper 40s to around 50. Let's get you out the door here for this morning. And there you can see we are seeing, of course, that fog for the valley and in Trinity County and some other areas in the higher elevations. We got Debbie Bishop saying super foggy in the city of Shasta Lake. Yeah, no surprises there. And mostly clear and cooler out in Fortuna. Thank you, Rowdy. Hey, by the way, let's take a look at some of the cameras along the coast. And yeah, I mean, this kind of confirms that we are seeing less in the way of fog out along the coast. Let me take you, and let me get this up here. We're going to take a look at what it looks like right now on the coast. And yeah, I mean, we're not seeing any fog. I mean, you've got the clouds, some clouds out there this morning, but we're not seeing the low visibility out there. And I'm just going to just get you out of here. We're going to take you to the Sundial Bridge camera. And yeah, that's what it looks like right now on the Sundial Bridge. I think the person on their bike should probably have well, hopefully they're wearing a helmet, number one, but maybe a light so people can see them. So there you go. All right, let's get out of there. And we'll take you back to the weather maps. And again, that fog out there this morning. All right, so the big picture, we've got this cold front off to our west. That's approaching. Now here's the thing, this is a fairly strong storm system, but the problem is we've got high pressure in place. And that high pressure is kind of stalling that storm system out, number one. Number two, that storm system is having a hard time holding on to its strength. So as a result, we're just going to see the clouds, but really no rain kind of coming out of it. So let's take a look at Futurecast here this morning. And of course, taking you through the afternoon, minus the fog, of course, we're going to see in the valley. We're seeing the high clouds begin to move in through the day. But you see the rain trying to sustain itself off the coast. Again, that's a fairly strong storm system being eaten apart by the ridge of high pressure. But it is still bringing us some clouds. Now, I think this is overdoing it. You see some of the showers late tonight, early tomorrow morning for parts of the coast and up to the north and east. Sure, maybe some sprinkles here and there, but I do expect it to remain dry through a good portion of the day, even tomorrow. Now, the winds today, not that bad, right? But as the storm system approaches, the winds are picking up here for tomorrow morning, and they'll probably pick up even more for especially Friday night into early Saturday morning. There is a beach hazard statement that's been issued for today through 3 p.m. Friday. What does that mean? You know what a sneaker wave is, right? You're on the coast, things look calm, things look normal, then suddenly you get this big rush of water, a big wave unexpectedly, and that can sweep you from under your feet and can drag you back in the ocean. If you're rock hopping, that's even more dangerous because you don't want to fall on those sharp rocks. So yeah, not a good idea being hanging out on the beach here today or tomorrow. Here's what it looks like today. Temperatures upper 50s, low 60s. And I want to say this. There's a disclaimer about the temperature. Most likely I'll be off with these temperatures. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if the fog burns off sooner than expected, these temperatures could be in the mid-60s again, especially to the north, right? If it takes longer to burn off, the temperature is probably only in the mid-50s for your daytime highs. So I'm kind of taking into account for that it may burn off sooner for Redding than Chico. So as a result, I've got it cooler in Chico. But these temperatures will really depend on how long that fog sticks around or how quickly it burns off. You can see for the mountains, of course, we got temperatures 40s and 50s. And for the coast, we've got temperatures upper 50s to around 60. And we take a look at your 7-day outlook. Got that morning fog for the next couple of days, but dry. And then, of course, on Saturday, that's when the wet weather kicks in. Now, it's going to be off and on rain. This is not going to be steady rainfall for 5 days straight. It's going to be off and on rain. And as it stands right now, for everybody, it looks like it will be dry on Christmas Day. No guarantees, though, folks, because I am seeing some signs of some models indicating maybe a chance for showers. Very light, but maybe a chance for showers on Christmas Day. For the coast, you've got partly to mostly cloudy skies, patchy fog for places like Trinity County this morning. Snow levels, by the way, look at that. See how high they are starting off with the storm systems coming in through the weekend? They're high snow levels. So the main impact for these storms will be wet roads, but not necessarily chain requirements, at least in those lower mountain passes. So that is a look at your 7-day outlook. Kind of checking in with some of you this morning. I've been kind of noticing that people have been making comments. As I mentioned, we are getting some comments about some of the fog this morning. Debbie Bishop saying super foggy there in the city of Shasta Lake. We've also got Delinda Lynch saying good morning. And it's a foggy start to the day in MacArthur there as well. And again, where it's typically foggy on the coast, we've got Esther saying beautiful dawn in Eureka. Just a few thin clouds to make it interesting. Should make for a beautiful sunrise, actually. So, yeah, thank you for those reports. I love getting your reports in because, you know, that's the beauty of what we do here, right? When I was live on TV, all I had was like email and Facebook and all that stuff, right? And I could check it between, but now live, I'm looking at all of the comments right now. So as you're writing it and as you send it, I'm seeing it and I can share that information. And that's information that's good for me to know because that gives me a better idea of what it looks like across Northern California. So I love your reports. Thank you so much for sending in your reports. All right, well, today is Thursday, and we have got our Ag Report, which is sponsored by our friends over there at Lassen Canyon Nursery. Now, this is something that's kind of, we wanted to do for a while, and I finally got around to it. And I was able, of course, the owner of Lassen Canyon Nursery is Kenny Elwood. And his wife, this is an interesting story. And you'll see it in the story, but his wife has a goat farm. A lot of goats. And they're awesome. And I learned a lot about the goats and what they do with the goats too. So check this out in this week's NorCal Ag Report, sponsored by Lassen Canyon Nursery. Hello everyone, Mike Krueger from Weather NorCal. You are watching NorCal Ag, sponsored by Lassen Canyon Nursery. And I am joined by Megan Elwood. And you have a lot of goats.
Yes,
I was driving around, you got goats on that side, you got goats over here, you got baby goats. First of all, how did you get into is it herding goats? What do you call it?
We just call it raising goats.
Raising
ranching.
goats,
Yeah.
ranching goats. How did you get into this?
So we've had cattle. I had hogs in the past, and my husband made a bet with his friend at a fair that we could get goats and beat them the next year. So we got goats, and the next year we beat them at the Tule Lake Fair, and now we have about 1,000 head of goats.
So all on a bet. All
Yes.
on a bet, and you have these beautiful animals here.
Yes.
We were talking earlier, there are basically 3 things that you do with these goats, right? Or 3 types of raising these goats.
Yes.
Tell us about those.
So these goats in these few pens that were born this fall, they're for 4-H and FFA projects, and they'll go to fairs in California and throughout the country.
So the 4-H, I don't mean to interrupt, but 4-H, are there students involved?
So 4-H is from, they can start at 9 years old taking larger projects like goats. They can start, I believe, at 5 taking rabbits and chickens and things like that to the fair. So 4-H is not affiliated with any schools. It's its own separate organization. There's also the Grange, which is its separate organization. And then FFA, which is high school, is through a school.
Got it. All right, so then what else do you do with them?
So our other goats, we have breeding does that we show and sell to people for breeding stock. And then we also do commercial goats, and we have a feedlot, and we process right now 8 goats a week. And we send goats to a restaurant and then to local people for meat consumption.
So this is what blew my mind when we were talking earlier. So there's a restaurant in LA called
A Girl and a Goat.
A Girl and a Goat, and then there's going to be another place. Where was that again?
In the Silicon Valley, it's called Sunnyvale, outside of San Jose.
Goat meat, and people eat. I had no idea, and you had also told me that that's the #1 meat
in the world, yeah.
In the world to eat. So tell me, I've never had goat meat before. So tell me what goat meat is like. How is it different than beef or anything like that?
People explain it that it tastes like antelope if you're used to eating wild game.
I've never had antelope.
Closer to like deer. It's similar to beef. If you grain finish them, they don't have as much of an aftertaste. I personally don't like to eat lamb, and I'll eat goat. So it's definitely on how they're fed and what they eat. But goat meat is high protein, it's high in iron, and it's low fat. So it's a very healthy meat.
So it is a very healthy meat. You would think that more people would eat it. What are your plans moving forward? Do you have any big plans?
So Kenny really wants to start being able to do a little fire control with the goats, but currently I'm like, you're not putting my good goats out there on people's property to get eaten or something. But he wants to get a little bit into that, and then we'll keep getting our numbers higher and raising more meat goats. And
quite the franchise you all have. Of course, Kenny's got the beef, you've got the goats, of course the strawberries. I mean, this is excellent. So I want to thank you for anything else you can think of, or?
Nope. Our goat ranch is Radiant Reds is what we call it.
Radiant Red.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about answering. Radiant Reds. And what's the story behind that?
When I was little, I had red Angus cattle and red pigs, Durocs, and we were watching Charlotte's Web, and she puts Radiant in the spider web, and that's how it came up with
awesome.
Radiant Reds.
I love it. Always love the good backstory behind it. These little guys are so adorable. I love it. That is so awesome. So much
these
fun.
were born on Thanksgiving, so they're just about 10 days old now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Megan. And of course, it was so interesting learning about goat. Who knew? I had no idea. The #1 in the world meat to eat. So kind of interesting here. Well, thank you again. And we'll see you next time for an Ag Report sponsored by Lassen Canyon Nursery. Once again, I want to thank Kenny Elwood, of course, Lassen County Nursery, for sponsoring NorCal Ag. Without their sponsorship, NorCal Ag Report would not exist, and Weather NorCal would not exist. So we've got to thank our sponsors and be grateful for what they do, because our sponsors are the reason why Weather NorCal is a free service to you. So if you ever run into or see any of the sponsors for Weather NorCal, be sure to let them know that you are grateful and happy that they sponsor and support Weather NorCal. Well, that was a fun report, wasn't it? Megan, she was great. She absolutely loved, it's very clear to me that she loves her goats. And it's just so neat to see them all out there. And I mean, I love the land that they have out there. It's just so beautiful. Of course, you saw that seasonal creek that they had for the goats. They go up on that big hill. Definitely a great lifestyle to have out there, and quite an operation that they got going too. It was very impressive. We've got Chappie saying, goats have always freaked me out, especially when they talk, LOL. Yeah, they kind of have their, sometimes they do that screaming thing. It's kind of fun. But you know what? They were great. They didn't give me any problem. They didn't come charging at me or anything like that. So it was definitely a lot of fun. So once again, I want to thank Lassen County Nursery, Kenny Elwood, Megan, of course, his wife, for taking the time to interview and talk about the goats. It was a lot of fun. Well, speaking of the sponsors and how Weather NorCal would not exist without our sponsors, How about Wind River Resort and Casino? Wind River Resort and Casino, let me tell you something. When we approached them to sponsor Coffee with Krueger, we were just thinking maybe, once a week or whatever. They said, we want the whole shebang. We want to sponsor Coffee with Krueger all together. So right there you have it. So I want to thank Wind River for their support as well. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. So if you're out and about, you see some of the people that are the important people out there at Wind River or Redding Rancheria, be sure to tell them, say, hey, I appreciate what you do. I watch Coffee with Krueger every morning. I watch Weather NorCal, and I appreciate your sponsorship and supporting Weather NorCal and making that possible. All right, there it is, folks, right here. I mean, you know what I'm talking about if you're out there. If you haven't looked outside, I could do that right now. I've got a window. I love having, yeah, I actually haven't looked out this morning, and there it is. I love having the window. I didn't have that at the TV station. I love the fact that I can look out my window and I can see the fact that it's foggy out there. It is foggy. And the most dense fog looks to be right now the north end of the valley, really kind of the I-5 corridor, and that doesn't seem to be quite as bad off the east side of the valley around Chico and Oroville, but still some fog there. We're also seeing a lot of patchy fog towards Trinity County and pretty dense fog even up towards Wairika too. In fact, let's take a look at some of the cameras out there. And remember, we were talking about the visibility is not as bad in Chico. And there you can see, we're seeing some fog. You can see the gray skies out there, but the visibility is actually pretty good. So not as dangerous there. Taking a Highway 99 at Neal Road. Again, you can see off the distance there, we're seeing some of that fog, but the visibility at about 5 miles right now. But take a look at this. This is Sundial Bridge Drive, Highway 44. A lot of times we can see all the cars. All we can see are just little headlights. So that's an indication of just how bad the visibility is there. Let's take you out to Balls Ferry Road on Highway I-5, right? There you can see the fog, but now we're starting to kind of see it break apart in some areas here. So it's patchy, dense fog. It's not overall dense fog everywhere. You can see around Red Bluff. Maybe you're heading south into Red Bluff or heading north from Red Bluff to Redding. Note that you are going to have to slow down and be prepared for that dense fog. And of course, we saw a little bit earlier some of the fog that we're seeing in some of the higher elevations as well. Around Chester, Wairika seeing some pretty dense fog. We're seeing some fog in parts of Trinity County. I got a confirmed report of some light fog in the Weaverville area, most likely in Hayfork as well. Where else did I see some of that fog? I think that was about it. There's probably some other areas, but along the coast, it's not foggy at all. You see some of the high clouds. Now, this satellite image is having a hard time picking up on a lot of the fog that we are seeing, but it does show you that it is picking up on that fog. And what's interesting, and this has been the case this week, a lot of the fog has been down the entire valley of California, Sacramento, and even the San Joaquin Valley. So we look at the visibility forecast. Check this out. I mean, it looks like it's going to stick around 9 o'clock this morning. Here's noon. Look at this, still sticking around. Now, fog is certainly a difficult thing to forecast. The thing is, and what makes it harder for it to burn off and take longer to burn off, is think about this. The angle of the sun is lower during the winter. The angle of the sun is much higher and higher in the sky and can kind of just pointing right down on the surface. But when you have a lower angle, right, it's going to take longer for the sun's rays to reach the surface. So what happens is, a lot of times, if we had a higher angle of the sun, this fog would burn off very quickly. But because we have the lower angle of the sun, it's going to take longer for that fog to burn off. And the fog, as you can see here, going through the afternoon, may stick around for some through a good portion of the day. And even if it doesn't burn off entirely, it's going to lift. So what you'll see is the visibility may increase, but it'll be kind of the gray skies overhead with maybe some breaks in the clouds here and there. But elsewhere, no fog, you're just seeing a lot of the high clouds moving in. But really, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that fog today. You can see right now, temperatures low 40s for the valley, much colder in the mountains where we're seeing less fog there. And we are seeing, of course, temperatures in the 20s. I want to say less fog in the mountains. There are places in the mountains that are seeing fog. I do have to remember to mention that. So here's your headlines. Dry and mild the rest of the week. Wet pattern returns this weekend through most of next week. And we've got the first day of winter on Saturday. Is the winter solstice. Now, of course, I've been mentioning this. It's the time of the year where you have the shortest amount of daylight. But after that, as we go into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week, all the way through the next several weeks and months, we're going to see the daylight hours get longer and longer. I don't think I hear anybody complaining about that. The snow levels, by the way, with the rain coming in, are actually going to be pretty high. And I'm not concerned necessarily about chain requirements, but just the wet roads. And of course, that's just as dangerous, folks. You got to allow yourself extra time. So here we got, of course, the cold front. This is a pretty impressive storm, folks. The problem is high pressure is in place, and it's just going to break away and eat away at that storm system. Now, the main impact will be the clouds that we will see, but overall, it's going to be dry. Now, take a look at this, though. These storms have a lot of moisture to work with. And you can see here, Saturday, the first storm that comes in, all that moisture to tap into. We've got an area of low pressure right here. That's tapping into it. All of that heading in Northern California. That's Saturday. Let's take you into Sunday. Another batch of moisture. In fact, heavier moisture. And that's going to be mainly Sunday afternoon into Monday that we see that rain. And then look at this. Monday into Tuesday, another round of that rain right here. You see that? Nice stream of moisture. Here's the area of low pressure. It's tapping into that moisture, and it's bringing in that rain for the area. Now, as we go into Christmas Day, I expect a break, but here's Christmas night. This is Wednesday, next Wednesday, that's Christmas Day. Christmas night into the day after Christmas. Look at this. Look at this whole stream of moisture. That's right, folks. This is called an atmospheric river, and that's aimed right at Northern California. There's the area of low pressure right here, tapping into that moisture. Boom, there it is, giving us all that rain. That's going to be Wednesday night into Thursday. Look at this. It doesn't stop. As we go into Thursday, yeah, that's the day after Christmas. There's the more rain. And then it probably into that next Friday. So we talk about atmospheric rivers, not as a scare tactic, not as a doom and gloom type of situation, but as an actual term and a meteorological term and something that we monitor to get an idea what's happening with the rain and snow. So you see these spikes? That's where we see the atmospheric rivers. Now what you'll notice is there's spikes and they're not lasting for a long period of time. So there are two things you got to look into. Number one, how long are we within that, say, AR2 category? How long is that lasting? And number two, how high? What's the atmospheric river impact? If we are at AR5 or 4, that's pretty serious. Because as you look at AR1, defined as mainly beneficial rainfall. It's good rain, it's rain that we need, nothing to be concerned about. As we start getting into AR2, that's when we start getting a little concerned about maybe some flooding, gusty winds, the works. But it's mainly beneficial rainfall with some hazards in there. And we've seen that in the last several weeks. So we could be looking at that here as we go into the weekend and through next week. And in particular, as we do go through next week, because what's going to happen is we're going to saturate the ground and become a little oversaturated. And then going into Monday and Tuesday of next week, we'll be looking at that. So that's kind of the idea here. Again, atmospheric river, it's not a phrase that I'm using as a way to get clicks or to get you to watch or anything like that. It's a way to help explain and give you the weather story, because that's what I do. I give you the weather story. All right, let's take a look at Futurecast and take a look at some of that rain that's coming on in. Now, it's going to take a while before it gets here. We've still got today. Now, minus the fog that we're seeing in the valley, what we're going to see is the high clouds kind of filter in throughout the afternoon and evening. Now, that storm system is going to try to dump a little bit of rain on us as we go into tonight and Friday morning. I don't think we're going to see much in the way of rain, if anything, as we go into Friday morning. This right here, it's trying to sustain and hold on to itself, and maybe see how it's just breaking apart. So sure, maybe through the day on Friday there could be a sprinkle or two for the North Coast, Trinity County, maybe even parts of the valley, but it's nothing to cancel any outdoor plans over. It's Friday night, Saturday morning. Here's midnight, Friday night. We're beginning to see the showers. but the main band of moisture is right here. Let's take you into Saturday around 5 a.m. You see the rain is kicking on in here. Not very heavy off to the east. Now, could we see a stray thunderstorm? I think especially for the coast. The chances for those thunderstorms may be slimmer off to the east, but we can't rule out some lightning strikes. But look at the snow. It's heavy, but that's at elevations of 5,000 to 6,000 feet. So maybe places like, let's see if we can see. Looks like even Scott Mountain. I mean, Scott Mountain may have a hard time picking up some of that snow too. So these snow elevations are going to be fairly high initially. Now, as we go into Saturday 9 a.m., we may be able to filter in some cooler air, and Scott Valley may start to see some of that. But look at I-5. It's all in the form of rain. Some of these higher elevations east of I-5 on Saturday morning, 5,000 feet or higher, maybe some snow, but mainly in the form of rain. That's 9 a.m. Saturday. By noon Saturday, you see how we're just seeing some scattered showers. And of course, this is all beginning to push eastward. So by the time we get to Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, we get a little bit of a break. So again, this is what we talk about these atmospheric rivers. How long is that stream of moisture aimed at us? And it looks like it's aimed at us through the morning hours, and then it shifts to the south Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Not a major issue, beneficial rainfall, and that's about all we get out of it. And that's good. Snow levels, again, fairly high, 5,000 to 6,000 feet. So how much rain can we expect with this system coming through on Saturday? Well, how about, say, a quarter to a half an inch in the valley, a half an inch to an inch along the coast? Where do we see less rainfall? Usually off to the north and east. That's typical. All right, so here's the overall setup. Right now, we've got high pressure in place. High pressure is typically associated with sinking air. You need rising air for rain to hold on to itself. So what happens is, you got rising air, you got instability, this is all coming on in. You see the trough of low pressure, rain, the works, right? As it starts getting into this area of high pressure, it's butting up against that sinking air. So what happens is, these storm systems kind of collapse. They can't hold on to themselves because, again, you need rising air for the clouds and the rain. So as these storm systems pass through, they break apart, they die down, because this ridge, in a sense, acts like a brick wall and prevents the storm from moving in. Now, you saw on Futurecast that the storm may be just strong enough to hold on to itself a little bit to bring a sprinkle or two. But you can see how it just kind of dies out. That high pressure is the dominant feature. But by Saturday, now the ridge is over here to our east. It's no longer blocking the storms. You see this little dip right here? This is what we call a shortwave trough. This right here is the rain for Saturday. And look at this. You see this? This nice flow? Two things. Number one, it's just going to transport, and see how it's aimed right in Northern California, it's going to transport any storm over the Pacific right at us. Number two, the moisture source that I was showing you a little bit earlier, it's from the south. It's a warmer source of moisture. And that's why our snow levels are going to be higher with these systems. So let's take you into Sunday, into Monday. See how that's pushing eastward? We've got that rain coming in on Sunday. Look at this right here. Monday, Tuesday of next week, we got the rain coming in. More rain. We have a trough of low pressure right here. Typically, the cooler air is allowed to cool down. Snow levels, as I mentioned, 5,000 to 6,000 feet starting off, even into Monday. They could lower on Tuesday, wouldn't you know, just in time for travel. Because as that colder air sinks and comes down from the north, we could see snow levels drop down to about 4,000 feet, give or take. So I-5 Mount Shasta, borderline at this point is what it's looking like. But Hatchet Mountain, probably, maybe some chain requirements there. I think the biggest concern with this on Tuesday will be east of I-5. But, you know, north on I-5, say around Anderson Grade, as you start getting closer to Oregon, maybe some problems. But again, this is something you got to watch. If you're traveling on Tuesday, on Christmas Eve, you're going to want to keep a close eye on the forecast. Now, we go into Christmas Day. It looks like it will be dry, and this has been pretty consistent. But I'm beginning to see, and I saw this morning, some of the long-range forecast models are painting in a little bit of rain here, possibly, on Christmas Day. But for now, I'm going to keep it dry. Go to the day after Christmas, look at what you got. I mean, just this flat, what we call a zonal flow type pattern. And it's basically the jet stream in a fast flow coming in from west to east, and again, transporting that moisture and these weaker storms pushing through, giving us more rain for the day after Christmas. And on Friday, there's more rain coming in. And then, of course, that next weekend. I think, based on the latest forecast models, this is going to last off and on through next week into the weekend after Christmas. But then beyond that, it may start to dry out again. So it should be interesting. I think that there are going to be times where we may be dealing with some minor flooding. Mudslides and debris flows are certainly going to be a possibility as we go through parts of next week. And snow down to about 4,000 feet. But before Tuesday, and even after that, probably around 5,000, 6,000 feet. How much rain can we expect through Wednesday? This model wants to bring us about 2 to even 3 inches of rain for the valley through next Wednesday. That's, of course, Christmas Day. Of course, dry on Christmas, too, so through Tuesday, really. And then, of course, you can see 4 to 5 inches of rain along the coast. And where are we seeing less rainfall? Yes, of course, off to the north and east, with 3/4 of an inch to maybe 1.25 inches when it's all is said and done. And we're still seeing the wetter the normal conditions. The darker the green, the better the chances of seeing above normal rainfall. Above normal temperatures, this helps support those higher snow levels that we'll be looking out of it. All right, now, this begs the question. Mount Shasta Ski Park. The base of the park is at about 5,500 feet. I think the ski park at times could see a slushy snow, the base. At times could see all rain, but I don't think it's going to be enough and will last long enough that we'll be looking at it melting all of the snow. But there may be some snow loss at times next week. Something we'll have to watch here closely. Again, that ski park at the base is kind of borderline sometimes where that rain-snow mix is. Of course, you get over the higher elevations, just all in the form of snow. Of course, you can see some of the other ski parks that you have out there. Things are looking pretty good, too. All right, let's go and take a look at the winds. And you can see, of course, the wind's not a problem today or this afternoon or evening. But tomorrow morning, the winds are picking up. That's because we have that approaching storm system. Winds getting gusty at times, and especially for Friday night, Saturday morning. Look at that, 30, maybe close to 40 miles an hour. Central Siskiyou County, Shasta Valley, right? Gusty winds there. Maybe even a little bit breezy elsewhere. But again, it's mainly the coast in central Siskiyou County. Then by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, the wind should start to die down again. All right, so we take a look at those wave heights. Not that bad here for today. Not that bad for Friday either, although they will start to increase as we go into Friday. With all of that said, there is a beach hazard statement. This is for today through 3 p.m. on Friday, sneaker waves. You know what those are, right? That's that wave, unexpected wave, a big rush of water that can sweep you under your feet, and it can be dangerous and sweep you into the ocean. There's your marine forecast. South winds at 5 to 10 knots. No advisories for today, but that will most likely change as we go into tomorrow, the small craft advisory. Here's your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures mid to upper 50s to around 60 for some of the warmer spots. Mainly dry through Friday with better chances for rain coming in this weekend. 61 for a high in Hyampom, 58 degrees for Peanut and Wildwood, about 57. Your North Coast neighborhood forecast. Could you see a sprinkle tonight, tomorrow morning? Sure. Is it going to be enough for you to really cancel any outdoor plans? No. Most of it's going to be here by the weekend. 64 degrees out in Ferndale, 65 in Hydesville and Fortuna, about 66. Up north, 61 for Trinidad, 60 in Hoopa, 60 degrees out towards Eureka. Take you up farther to the north, about 62 degrees out towards Smith River and 60 in Oric. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures upper 40s to low 50s. Pretty much anywhere you go there. You can see about 46 degrees for Greenview. Out towards Etna, about 47. Fort Jones, 49. And 48 in Callahan. Your Siskiyou County to the central and eastern portions of the county, about 47 degrees in Weed, 54 in McLeod, and Tule Lake about 47. All right, there you can see Newell about 47, 47 for Canby. For your Modoc County neighborhood forecast, you're going to be looking at increasing clouds, especially later on today. Eastern Mountains, about 58 degrees for Montgomery Creek, 60 in Paynes Creek, 49 for Old Station. So you got the morning frost, by the way, today and tomorrow morning for places like Bernie. Look how high those snow levels are. Maybe down about 4,000 feet on Tuesday. So even on Tuesday, with those lower snow levels, Bernie will probably still be in the form of rain. Lassen Park, Chester, there you can of course see dry conditions for today and tomorrow, and then those higher snow levels come Saturday and Sunday. Taking it to the south, Paradise a high of 60, 54 in Mineral, 54 for Kronberg and Portola, about 50. And there's your Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by our friends at Walgamith Painting. You've got those temperatures in the upper 50s to about 60, 57 for Corning, 58 for Los Molinos, 56 in Durham. Take you up north, 63 for the city of Shasta Lake. And I'm going to tell you, this is one of those days where my forecast high may be completely wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because if the fog takes longer to burn off than expected, these temperatures are not going to break the 50s or break it into the 60s. But if it burns off sooner than expected, we could see some mid-60s. So once again, it all depends on what that fog decides to do. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook for Redding. First day of winter. Yes, it's the winter solstice on Saturday. That will, of course, be the shortest day of daylight. And then after that, those daylight hours once the sun comes out, obviously. Because we are going to be looking at overcast skies. But those showers off and on through the weekend, early next week. Christmas Day right now, and this has really been in the forecast since it's been on the 7-day forecast, and that is talking about those drier conditions. So I do expect a break from the wet weather on Wednesday, and then of course after that, maybe the day after Christmas, a chance for some more wet weather. All right. Things are going to be more interesting. Right? Of course, we got the fog this morning. That hopefully burns off. Let's see here. We got some people kind of chiming in this morning here, checking in. Let's see what we got here. We've got Catherine Schmidt. Of course, it's kind of going back to the goats. I love my four-legged kids. Yes, I am a goat lady too. All right, Catherine, that's awesome. Got the goats. Maybe do some goat yoga, right? We did that years ago. It was so much fun. Tracy Sackett, good morning. Goats are so much fun. We have 2 boys who are basically spoiled pets. There are organic weed eaters. Yes, I can imagine. I meant to put these up here. Chrissy Bentley saying good morning. Enjoy the goat interview. I love goats' weed-eating abilities. Yeah, I mean, how many times do we see that here? They got the goats out there. And then, of course, Chappie's saying, she's not a big fan of the goats. She kind of freaked her out. But she does appreciate the weed-eating goats. That's, yeah. I mean, fire suppression, right? That's always good. That's a good thing. And we got Janet Conrad. Good morning to you. And good morning to everyone else as well. Well, that should do it for us this morning. We've got some interesting weather out there this morning. This is a look at Lake Oroville, and you can see, of course, the fog that we are seeing out there this morning. That is going to make for a foggy start to the day for many of us in the valley, and there is also some fog in many of the higher elevations as well. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee with Krueger, made possible by Wind River Resort and Casino. Have yourselves a great day. Stay safe out there, especially if you do hit some of that patchy, dense fog. Do know that that is going to be the major hazard out there this morning for your morning commute. Otherwise, it should hopefully clear out later this afternoon for many of us, but not necessarily. It may stick around for a good portion, if not all of the day, for some parts of the valley. And then, of course, maybe some morning fog coming into tomorrow. And there's Kenny checking in this morning. Kenny Elwood, hello to you. I hope you got a chance to check out the interview I had with your wife, Megan. Did you see it? If not, you know where to check it out, right? You know where you can find that. I'll keep the music up here and I'll just kind of show you. Very easy. Let's show you. We're going to go to weathernorcal.com. Boom. Oops, no. There we go. weathernorcal.com. There we go. And you go scroll down where it says Ag Report, Lassen County Nursery. Then you can go here, check it out, sponsor, and then you say click here to watch NorCal Ag. Click on that. There it is. There are the goats, and you can watch. the goat interview. I'll, of course, also post it on Facebook later on this morning as well, so be sure to check that out. Again, we're taking a look at some of those streaming cameras. Have yourselves a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning on your Friday edition of Coffee with Krueger. Have a great day.
Thank you.